move on to Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. I want to get your thoughts on this really quickly. What are your thoughts on, what's your biggest takeaway overall from The Last Dance? We have all the time in the world, so you can go ahead, dive into wherever you want. Just what's your biggest takeaway from MJ as far as what you took away from watching The Last Dance?
Yeah, man.
Or it could be about Scottie, the coach, just whatever you thought from the episodes.
For sure. There's a lot of things to take away. I didn't know about I'm watching this from the perspective of someone that didn't experience it, right? It was a thing that I did with my dad every Sunday night. We would sit down and we'd watch the 2 episodes of the Last Dance documentary. And he's looking at it from the perspective of someone who's lived through it, seen it, and he's reminiscing and looking back on it, right? I'm looking at it from the perspective of someone who didn't see this firsthand. So I'm asking him all these questions throughout the course of the documentary. How do people view this player? How do people view that player? What's the context of this? What's the context of that? So it was 2 very different viewing experiences right next to each other between me and my father. But the biggest takeaway, man, for me, because I always knew people viewed Jordan as the GOAT. I always personally viewed Jordan as the GOAT because of the things that people told me. But I never really got to truly grasp why. You can watch the tape and you can, look at the numbers all you want, but there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand that gives you a true gauge on why this person is viewed in the light that they are. So when it came to the Last Dance documentary, although it was a bit of a biased piece of work, it was not really meant to, do a multifaceted examination of what Michael Jordan's career was. It was pretty much told from Jordan's perspective, which is fine. What the documentary did such a great job of is putting people who weren't there in that space and making you feel as though you're experiencing what Jordan was to the people that viewed him at that period of time. And now I understand more than I ever did before why people view him as the GOAT. And the reason is that I really extracted, you never saw Michael Jordan get taken off his throne. You saw him. You saw him take himself off. You saw him retire. But in his prime, you never saw Michael Jordan say. You never saw somebody step to Michael Jordan, look him dead in the face, and say, "You're not the best player anymore. I am." And we've seen that by just about every other player in the NBA. When we think about LeBron, and we talked about KD, we've seen KD hit that shot in LeBron's face, look him in the face. "You're not the best player anymore. It's my crown now." We've seen Kobe be dethroned by the Celtics. We've seen all of these all-time great players. Even Bill Russell, the greatest winner of all time, he didn't win every single championship.
He lost one of them.
Exactly. So Michael Jordan, we never saw him during the course of his prime. No player was ever able to step to Michael Jordan and say, "You're not the king anymore. I am." Reggie Miller came close. He came real close to it. He never was able to accomplish it. And that's why people really view him as the GOAT, because this whole concept of a person being dethroned and having the crown taken away from him, that really sticks in your memory. It's hard to shake that image, right, of the player, head hung low, walking off the court as you see the opposing team's confetti fall around you. We never got that image of Jordan. So the only image that we have of Jordan is the victorious one. The fist clenched, the championship image of Jordan. That's the only image that anyone ever has of Jordan in his prime, because he never was dethroned. Once he got that first championship, it was 3 back-to-back-to-back. Then he took himself off the throne and went to go play baseball. Then he put himself back on the throne, came back. Granted, that first year he came back in the middle of the season. He didn't win the championship, but I'm not sure anyone was really holding him to that, considering that he wasn't conditioned at that point in time. He came back in the middle of the season towards the time of the playoffs. But once he got another full season under his belt, back again to being on top. And then he wins 1, 2, and 3 again. Then he retires. So we never saw Jordan get dethroned. And we actually had this debate on our podcast, because if we would have seen Jordan and that Bulls team play to its extent and really finish out those guys' careers until they weren't able to win anymore, like say they played the next year, and maybe they won another championship. That was a lockout season. They didn't play as many games. Those guys were older, so they would have had more rest. Maybe they beat that Spurs team in the finals and he gets 7 rings. But if they go to that 2000 finals and we see Kobe Bryant hit an iconic shot in the face of Michael Jordan, and that Lakers team ends up beating that Bulls team,
people will be chirping a little bit. They be chirping.
Exactly. We see the old defeated Michael Jordan head off of that Lakers court as Kobe Bryant is back victorious. we would have seen Kobe Bryant strip the throne from Michael Jordan. Because we never got that image of Michael Jordan, that's why people view him as the GOAT. Because he was the ultimate champion, excuse me. And there was a quote that he said at the end of the documentary that really resonated with me because it was essentially the biggest overarching message that the documentary was sending to me. Michael Jordan said something along the lines of, "Say what you will about me, but you will not win until I quit." And that's
honestly what happened.
Exactly. That's the biggest takeaway for me from the Last Dance documentary, is that people view Jordan as the greatest of all time because no one, when he was in his prime, he was unbeatable. No one could beat that dude.
Yeah, I'm going to come out with a video pretty soon about this. Jordan's the greatest player of all time. No one can change my mind. You LeBron James fanboys got to stop. I respect Kobe a lot, but he's not the GOAT. We already talked about Bill Russell being the most overrated basketball player of all time. Magic is good, but not quite on MJ's level. Magic lost to MJ in the finals, okay? So I don't want to hear that. Right. Michael Jordan is just by far the greatest basketball player of all time. It's not even close. And I've always said that, you know, I'm going to use a football analogy. We look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady, most accomplished quarterback of all time. He's the GOAT in my opinion. Not going to dispute that. I understand people argue for Peyton Manning. I understand people argue for Joe Montana, but I don't understand why. But what I will say about Tom Brady is that I understand why they do it simply because Tom Brady does not always win the argument of most dominant, undisputed, best quarterback in football. That honestly goes to Peyton Manning. That goes to Aaron Rodgers. Those guys were more talented. Okay, when you look at them, they threw a better football than Tom Brady. Yeah, they threw a better football than Tom Brady. And when we look at Tom Brady, his first 3 rings, I'm not trying to knock him for it, but it's not like he was the best quarterback in football. It's not like he was Patrick Mahomes. It's not like he was Aaron Rodgers. He was more of a game manager, just big on third down. He was a clutch player, but not dominating the sport. Michael Jordan actually dominated basketball. He was one of the most talented guys. I've always said that as far as scoring goes, you know, it's Kevin Durant, it's Kobe Bryant, or Michael Jordan. Whichever 3 you want to put over the other, I don't care. I think Kevin Durant's the most talented scorer of all time. I think Kobe could get the hottest out of the 3, and Michael Jordan combines efficiency, the relentlessness, and just a clutch gene. So I probably give the edge to Jordan as far as greatest scorer ever, simply because he did in a dominant defensive era. He's the all-time leading scorer at 30 points per game. So, yeah, all you people that think Michael Jordan's not the GOAT, I'm sorry, but I don't know. You lose little stripes for me. But either way, my biggest takeaway is that things were different back then. You know, I really think they were, because social media is a real thing today. It wasn't a real thing back then. There was the press releases, there was the newspapers, but it wasn't like Twitter nowadays where people are type everything. You know, instantly we get the analysis. And I think people back then just appreciated who Michael Jordan was as a basketball player and as a person. And mainly probably because he was just so much better than everyone else. There was a huge gap. Maybe that was the case, but there were obviously critics. But I think people more so appreciated Michael Jordan rather than just tearing him down like they nitpick Kevin Durant, they nitpick Steph Curry, they nitpick LeBron James to a T. Yeah. And I think that Michael Jordan got the criticism no doubt, but if he were playing in today's era, let's say he couldn't get past the Warriors, they say he's James Harden, scores a bunch of points, but doesn't win enough. And when he gets a real head coach in Phil Jackson, they'll say, is Michael Jordan a product of Phil Jackson? I honestly think those would be the headlines that we would actually be reading. And people just appreciate Michael Jordan back then. So that's one of my biggest takeaways. And I just think that people appreciated him. He's the GOAT in my opinion. That's the biggest takeaway I have. I wanted to get your thoughts on the MLB baseball thing with Michael Jordan, the minor league baseball thing. I think that Michael Jordan, if he didn't play basketball, if he spent all his time playing baseball, I think he could develop into a major league player. And here's why. He's got the athletic tools. You know, I played baseball, you know. Baseball's more of a skills sport. You know, you have to actually work on your tools. Sometimes being the best athlete doesn't mean you're going to be the best baseball player, but it definitely helps. You know, you can steal bases. You can play the outfield. It allows you to play multiple positions, second base, shortstop, third base, all that good stuff. So from an athletically gifted perspective, Michael Jordan had that, you know, to his advantage. And I think that he could work his body into being more of a baseball player. You know, he worked on his core more when he stopped playing basketball and things of that nature. And I do think that if Michael Jordan got the amount of reps and was brought up just strictly playing baseball with his competitive drive to probably try to win every pitch, to study every pitcher's, pitch or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he would just be a student of the game. And when you play baseball, you have to really be a student of the game to succeed in the major leagues because everyone's so talented. And I think that Michael Jordan would be a good baseball player for all those reasons. You think he'd be I don't know how good he would be, but I think he can make a major league roster. Your thoughts?
I mean, the dude was definitely obsessive about whatever he was doing, right? Like, they talked about how when he was playing Major League Baseball, he struggled with his hitting, and the dude would be up there at 5 o'clock in the morning working on his swing, making sure he was following through and all that. And I'm not the biggest, connoisseur of baseball, but I do know, if you're walking away from the batting cage with blisters on your hands because you were swinging the bat so much, you were probably, willing to put in the work that it took to become a really good baseball player. So I do agree with you. I've heard a lot of stories about how, when Michael Jordan played baseball, he sucked and he wasn't this and he wasn't that. When we think about Tom Brady in a Super Bowl or in any sort of clutch game, when we think about Russell Wilson, there's certain dudes that you just don't bet against. Michael Jordan is one of those people. If Michael Jordan says, "Hey, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player," I'm not going to be the dude to sit up there and say, "No, you can't, Michael Jordan. You're not going to be able to do that." That dude took everything personally. He probably would have been like, "Oh, you don't think I can become a Major League Baseball player?" And then he probably would have ended up becoming Barry Bonds or something because I said that to him. So I'm not going to be the dude to put just about anything past Michael Jordan in terms of what he can accomplish athletically. I do agree with you. I think he could have definitely made a Major League roster if he really, really put his mind to it.
Now, as far as Scottie Pippen, do you think that he's more of, as far as the perception of people go, you think he's more of a loser or a winner from this documentary series? Honestly, I don't have anything against Pippen, but I think that he's kind of more on the sour side of people's minds. I think that people realize that Michael Jordan appreciated him, but he kind of looked bad at times, that documentary. The whole situation with Tony Kukoc, him not going into the game saying, "Yeah, you want to put Tony Kukoc in there to, take the last shot, fine. I'm not going to be on the court." And then Tony Kukoc makes the shot. What are you doing? Yeah. And then, obviously, he had the whole contract situation. He was underpaid by the Bulls. He despised that, and I understand that. And then him pushing his surgery back, which really affected the team. Michael Jordan to carry the load because Scottie Pippen didn't want to have surgery during the summer because he didn't want to, quote-unquote, mess up his good time in the summer. So, honestly, I don't really care too much. I mean, I care about it, obviously, because that's being a bad teammate. But I'm not personally going to ridicule Scottie too much because I understand where he's coming from at times. But at the same time, I think that among the general public, they're looking at Scottie and saying, "Man, what was he doing?" What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. Me and my roommate Eddie actually were talking about this. There were a lot of times where the documentary did not do enough to paint Scottie Pippen in a good light. And in the beginning, he was really somewhat of a sympathetic figure because Jerry Krause was this stingy, micromanaging person, and he didn't want to give Scottie Pippen the money that he deserved, and he essentially took advantage of him because of the background that he was coming from. So he put forth this really long deal with not a whole lot of money, knowing what Scottie Pippen could have become. And then he ended up becoming that, and he was really getting a raw deal in terms of his contract. The only thing that Scottie Pippen did that I fault him for was not going into the game because Phil Jackson made that decision. I don't even fault him for being mad that he didn't get the shot. I fault him for not going in there and standing by his team.
Right.
The coach's decision.
And I give him credit for that Game 6 performance when he had that back injury, versus Carmelo and the Jazz. That was a gutsy performance. So I think that he gets some brownie points from some people, but I still think that there's the perception that people think that he was kind of a bad teammate. I don't really care, but that's how people think.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the biggest takeaways for me, outside of anything Michael Jordan related, was that performance with that back injury. Like I was talking with my friend Julio, and he was a former basketball player. Unfortunately, his career had to end because of back injuries. And he's talking about, man, there's just no way that a human should be able to play through that sort of pain. I mean, you literally see this dude gimping up and down the court. The fact that he can even still be a body out there is remarkable to me. So that was really one of the truly gutsy things that I saw throughout the course of the entire documentary. But it was a Michael Jordan documentary, right? A lot of the creative direction was oriented by Michael Jordan. So if this is Michael Jordan trying to tell the Michael Jordan story, he's not going to delve into matters of Scottie Pippen too much. And one of the biggest failures of the documentary, I think, is not highlighting exactly how good Scottie Pippen was during those years when Michael Jordan left to go play baseball. I mean, the dude was third in MVP voting. for a season. They kind of painted it as once Michael Jordan left, Phil Jackson and the team perfected the triangle offense and became this well-oiled machine in terms of moving the ball and moving around the court. But they didn't highlight exactly how pivotal that Scottie Pippen was to advancing that, because the dude was one of the best players in basketball at that point in time. And a lot of people like to discredit Scottie Pippen's ability because once he left the Bulls for the Trailblazers, he wasn't nearly as good. But I think people lose the context of realizing, hey, the dude messed up his back that last final series with the Bulls, and he really wasn't ever the same after that. And he was already aging to begin with. So that's the biggest thing that I think the documentary didn't do well in regards to Scottie Pippen, is highlighting exactly how talented he was. Because it's not like he's just this Robin to Michael Jordan. The dude had a lot of value to bring to the court, both in terms of his ball facilitating ability, his defensive ability, his high IQ. He brought a lot of talent. It's not like I wouldn't go so far as to say that he was, on the same level as Michael Jordan, obviously. Ooh. But, to say that, he was just this really good role player, like we were talking about Bill Russell being, no, it's not that by any stretch of the word. Scottie Pippen was a star, no doubt.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Now, as far as the Bulls management goes, I gotta give him some credit for at least starting the dynasty. I mean, Jerry Krause, he's a great eye for talent. I'm not gonna knock him for putting this team together, but it just always seemed like they want the credit. And we could talk about organizations, all that good stuff, but in reality, it's about what the players do. It's not about the general man. I just think that Krause and them always wanted the credit, and I'm not gonna bash them too much simply because they created the dynasty as far as getting the players together and things of that nature. But at the same time, if I'm Michael Jordan, I'm a little upset because I feel like you could potentially won another title. But like you said, if Michael Jordan goes 7-1 in finals and Kobe Bryant's a game-winning shot in Game 7 over him to take the throne from him, then that might be a little stain on MJ's legacy. I still probably would give him the GOAT nod, but yeah, I mean, also, I do think that the Bulls, I don't think they would have rattled off like 10 straight titles just simply because they were worn down that last finals. In that game 6 versus the Jazz, Scottie Pippen could barely walk in that game, okay? So, and MJ had a lot of minutes. He was already drained out from being this huge star off the court. As big of a star as LeBron James is off the court, I don't even know if he reached Michael Jordan's level off the court. I just don't know. I think that dude is an absolute rock star off the court as far as the fans go. So, again, would I have liked the Bulls to have been put together more and wrote it out more to see if they could have won 8 championships, went 8-0 in finals? Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it was the right time.
Right, and I agree with you. All good things must come to an end. And one of the most interesting things about the documentary, it was kind of a twist ending, right? Because you had Phil Jackson, who the owner eventually came to him and said, hey, you've earned this opportunity to come be the head coach again, and we can do this for another year. But Phil Jackson ultimately was the guy to make the decision and say, no, this is over. And he's a guy that has a very strong understanding of human nature and really almost existential understanding of reality. And he's a very high intellectual person. And if he's the guy that's saying, you know what, this thing's run its course, I'm going to trust Phil Jackson if he really believed that thing had run its course. So, as a fan, obviously you want to see this go for as long as possible. You want to get as many Jordan highlight plays, as many images of them holding up his rings as possible. But Phil Jackson, man, he ended up coaching my Lakers, and the way that he really approaches his coaching style, it's very respectable. And I'm not going to be the one to question his decision making. Yeah,
and the last thing I got to say is that this whole narrative that Michael Jordan played in a watered-down NBA, I don't buy it. And you could talk about LeBron James. That guy played in a watered-down Eastern Conference. No disrespect to Paul George and Roy Hibbert, but that's the best competition LeBron had to go through in the East, arguably. I don't think LeBron James makes 9 straight finals playing in the West, where he has to go through the Spurs and the Warriors, which were his kryptonites. I don't think he would have sniffed 9 straight finals. Well, 8 straight finals, 9 appearances.
Here's my thing, right? Because we end up creating these narratives out of the results that come about. And it's easy to look back and say that Jordan played in a watered-down NBA because he was so dominant. But had Jordan not...
He caused the watered-downness.
Exactly. He caused this perception of it being watered down because he stood toe to toe and beat those Jazz teams, because he beat those Knicks teams, because he overcame the Pistons, because he was able to beat the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like if he ends up losing to those teams, we view those teams in a different light because John Stockton and Karl Malone, they now have a ring, and Reggie Miller, he makes these finals. So we can call it watered down because of the results that we've seen. Or we can accept the fact that Jordan was that good that he overcame what was not a watered-down NBA, actually a really darn good NBA, and he was just that much better than everyone else. That's the reality of it. It wasn't a watered-down NBA. Jordan was just that good. That's what people need to understand.
No doubt, 100%. And we're going to wrap things up, man. I appreciate you for coming on. This was great talking to you.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah, no doubt. You're doing great things. Be sure to subscribe to my guy Reagan Griffin Jr.'s podcast, The Reagan Griffin Jr. Show. Be sure to check him out on Hoop and Holler podcast. Just type in Hoop and Holler to podcasting platforms. You'll find them via Square One Media. He does a lot of good things. Man, I appreciate you for coming on. This was fun. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God-blessed day, and I'm out.